Hi, my name is Verana, and I'm currently the Director of Advocacy for DeGroote Women in Business. I'm also a third year commerce student at DeGroote.
Great. Nice to meet you. Well, I'm a longtime alumni. Graduated in 1983, actually, and did the majority of my career at KPMG, various different roles. That's where I exercise my DEI role very much, with both a Canadian role and a global role, actually. And now retired 5 years, and I'm on the board of CIBC, Magna International, CAE, and CPAB, which is the regulator for auditors. So that's me in a nutshell. Happily married to my wife, Virginia.
Wow, that's amazing. I guess we can kind of segue into our questions now.
Sure.
Congratulations on being recognized with the DeGroote Alumni Social Impact Award. That's an amazing achievement. What does receiving this award mean to you personally and professionally?
So, to be honest with you, it's more important personally than professionally at this stage of my life. And you know what, Ron, it's especially quite cool because of what's going on in the world.
Mhm.
So I do worry that DEI is getting pushed back a little bit, we're taking a step back. And so for the school to actually recognize it at this particular time, I think is very special and reflects well on the school as well, that it's something that's still high on their radar. So that's what I appreciate, especially around the DEI stuff.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely important to continue to uphold those values, especially when things are ever changing around us, right?
Agreed. And not always positive.
Yeah. Kind of, I guess, segueing into our next question, what does social impact mean to you?
Yeah, I think to me, it means making a difference, both small differences like around you and bigger differences, whether it's in firms or communities and that sort of thing. So making a difference is kind of how I see social impact.
Yeah. So on the note of kind of making a difference around you, what inspired you to focus your efforts on inclusion and diversity?
That's a great question. I've never actually been asked that question before, so it took me a moment just to think about that. One, being diverse to start with helps. Being a woman and being a gay woman definitely gives you a vantage point, gives me a vantage point that is not always seen. And especially when I grew up through KPMG, it was very male dominated, straight, white, male dominated organization, which it's not anymore, that's for sure. But it certainly was as I came through. So I think having, I have a perspective that makes me empathetic to those diverse groups, not just my own diversity, but others as well. So I think I just have a different eye at it and really care and wanting to make a difference originally within the firm, and then broader after that.
That's amazing. Yeah, especially when you're stepping into an environment that in some cases, you don't see people that look like you or have the same identities as you. It's really difficult at first to really, push for that. But that's what's important about your work and all type of advocacy work,
Right.
you
And
know.
it's important, and that's a very good point. It's important for the folks to see it in their leadership too, right? I remember at KPMG, we did a campaign where and it was for Pride Month in June, and we put posters up across the country where they had pictures of me with like the CEO, and I had on a t-shirt that said I'm gay, and he said my friend is gay, and then another leader said he had two sisters that were gay, and all that went out. And we do know that it had individual impacts, that people actually came out because of it. And to me, that's the whole point of being very visible in this area.
Yeah, for sure. And kind of on that note of, creating change, did you encounter any challenges in establishing an inclusive workplace?
Yeah, I think it takes time. I two points that I recall was when we started in Canada, and we were well on our way with KPMG, and then we realized that people weren't following us. I mean, as I said earlier, I see it, I'm empathetic to it, but not everybody is. So we had to do a full stop, go back and do a full on education of the leadership and the partners and make sure that they understood why this was important. So that's the one. The second one was when I went from the leadership of Canada to the global leader for DEI. I mean, wow, that's when you're happy that you live in Canada. Because there's lots of places around the world that we can't barely even talk about DEI. I mean, it's got worse since then, especially with what's going on in the U.S. But if I think back to some countries, like we had a global pride network, and a number of the individuals could not even come out in their own countries, but they could join the global network, which was kind of a big deal for them that they could see others in leadership roles. But it just was sort of a safe place for them to be, which I really found rewarding. But it was an eye-opening experience becoming global leader and finding out, you know, how lucky we are in Canada.
For sure. Yeah. I guess you kind of answered my next question a little bit, but kind of going into why is it important to you to encourage diversity of thought and ensure many different perspectives and voices are represented?
I just think that we get the better answers. I think it's very practical solution. Our point that's the point we had to go back and educate people on, that you just get better answers, and it's better development for our teams. And so the better developed team you have, the better business you're going to have to run.
For sure. Yeah, it's definitely like, having more perspectives, more lived experiences around you, as a business that can help you, create pathways or create strategies that not only represent your company, but represent the communities you serve, right?
Exactly. And giving back to the communities that aren't always the same old ones you do in your day. There's that once you have diverse perspectives, you're into supporting different communities, which I think is so powerful.
For sure. What advice would you give to a student who wants to take a leap, start a new initiative, and drive positive change, but doesn't feel necessarily qualified or lacks the resources to do it?
Yeah. Again, I broke this question into two parts because I think there's one answer for who does they don't feel they're qualified, and that I think is um, that is very often a perspective from our diverse communities, because they don't, as we just talked about, they don't see themselves in leadership, so they're not sure they can do it. And so my advice there would be to surround yourself with a diverse team that brings different strengths, different skill levels, different perspectives, and then uh, you'll get to a better answer and take a leap forward. But on the second part, lacks resources, that's to me that's a little bit different, because I think that you need to have the thoughtful business plan for how to ask for the resources. So within a firm, or you're in a community and you need resources, whether it's dollars or technology or whatever, you need to sell and be able to convince those that have hold on to the purse strings to that you have a business case in order to move forward. So I thought those were two different questions.
Yeah, honestly, it's really helpful to break it up into two because, there's, I think, being in a business school with students who all have so many different talents and different interests, right? And definitely all still, figuring out our lives, just entering our early professional careers, when we have ideas, it is intimidating to,
Yeah,
make that leap and to really, push outside of the box, right? But
right.
sometimes, and especially in like the work you have done, it's so important because you never know what it can lead to and how important it can be to others as well.
Yeah, and there's safety in numbers too. So if you can get a team around you or others to support that you with your idea, that's much more powerful than a single voice, right?
For sure. In your view, are organizations doing enough today to support EDI initiatives? Where do you see the biggest opportunities for change?
So if you'd asked me that question 2 years ago, it would have been a different answer than it is today. So I thought we'd made great progress up till the changes that's happened in the global world around us when it comes to DEI. I do think that we've taken a step back, and I'm very disappointed in some organizations that have, taken a step back, taken the easy road out. And I do wonder whether they really believed in it from the start, right? Because if they're that quick to change their policies or stop talking about it or pull their, impact reports, were they really there to start with? And I'm not too sure. But you look at companies like Starbucks and Salesforce who have turned it on top notch to say we're going to be focused even more on DEI. So I think it's a real mixed bag right now for where people are, and I think we need to go back to find the voice and make sure that people in high places are talking about DEI in a very positive perspective, as opposed to what we may have seen in the last 18 months or so.
For sure. Now kind of going into more business leadership questions. What skills or mindsets do you believe are essential right now in today's business landscape?
Yeah, I mean, again, a great question, and you assume that everybody has the skill base, like the basic business skill base. But what I've always valued in individuals, and even more today, is empathy, ethics, curiosity, and courage. So I think that's like two E's and two C's. But I think those are the things that are really going to distinguish people from their peers in the world into the future. I mean, if you think about it, we talked about empathy already and how critical it is to advance this agenda. But I worry about ethics and all the AI stuff that's out there, and people starting to take shortcuts or trying to take shortcuts with AI. So I think ethics are going to be a critical talent that or skill base that needs to be very prevalent in the graduates in the future.
For sure. But now, what trends or innovations are you the most excited about in for the next coming years or so?
You haven't said that. I am very excited about the AI that's coming and how it's going to change our world, and quantum computing that's going to change it even faster. So those I'm very excited about. But I'm also excited about, back to my comment about how things changed 18 months ago around this DEI topic, DEI topic. And I'm starting to see and read articles that are starting to see a shift back, and that people are starting to push back on the administration that is against DEI, et cetera, et cetera. So that gives me hope that there may have been a knee-jerk reaction to, the U.S. administration coming out with all their rules and changes and all that stuff. But I'm starting to see companies starting to revert back, which gives me lots of optimism.
For sure, yeah, especially with AI, it's so interesting to see how, it feels like every week someone has a new AI platform, right?
Yes,
Um,
yeah, and
yeah.
that's not going to stop either. I
Mhm.
mean, there will be a consolidation in the marketplace, obviously, but who's going to be the winners or losers? Who knows? But
Yeah, like it's really interesting, like to even see kind of how some platforms have been built up and then completely have collapsed or like they're not going to be working anymore, or
right,
things like how fast like like it's been, the increase in how many platforms people are kind of trying to pump out right now and kind of
exactly,
seeing, I guess, the difference between what works, what doesn't. And it's kind of like a trial and error kind
right.
of era for
Oh,
everyone.
for sure. And the other thing that I think is optimistic is, I don't know if you followed that Mythos story. The Claude um, uh, has come out with a new technology that can, or a new AI that can break code everywhere.
Oh,
And
wow.
so, you're right. So they gave it over to the software companies so that the software companies could get all the protections in place. This has all happened like in the last 10 days. Put all the protections in place before they release it. They say they're not going to release it to the general public because bad actors can get a hold of it. And they say they can get into every system right now. So the fact that they didn't release it, that they actually handed it over for help and good for people, that gives me hope too, that there are some good people in the world doing that.
For sure. Now kind of switching gears a little bit, but looking back on your early stages of your career, what advice would you give to your younger self?
Yeah, I was a small town, shy person when I entered McMaster and left McMaster and went on to KPMG. So I would suggest be more confident in yourself and your abilities. And then also, this is kind of a basic one. I'd read more. I read all the time now, and I wish I had done that since I was like, because you come out of university and you're like, oh, I'm done with books, man. Enough's enough. Then I wrote my CA exams, and I'm like, I'm done with books. But I wish at that point in time I had read more around what's going on in the world, the economy, that sort of thing. So that would be my two pieces of advice to the younger Mary Lou.
For sure. Yeah, definitely sometimes I'm also like, I should probably read more.
I know you just don't have time in your world, right? But yeah, it's a different. It's I'm loving it now. I read everything.
Well, I guess this is kind of off topic, but what are like your top three right now, like reads, if you have any books that you've been reading lately?
Yeah. So I always have one business book on the go, and it's normally like I listen to it, and most of it's about how the banking system failed in the 1980s or what happened in 2001 and all that kind of stuff. And then I always have a popular book on the go at the same time. So I just finished The Correspondent. I don't know if you wouldn't have read that yet. You're in the middle of exams. Um, so over the summer, read The Correspondent. It was quite good. And the other one I'm really enjoying right now is Theo in Golden. So those are my two top picks right now.
Oh yeah, I'll definitely keep that on my reading
Yeah.
list for once exams are wrapped up.
Yes.
So our next question is, what's one piece of advice that students often overlook but is crucial for career growth?
Yeah, and I love this question. And you may be surprised by my answer, but I think it's be patient. And I know that that's probably not a high skill base that you graduates will think about, but I think you should take every opportunity, every job as a development and get something out of it and stay long enough so you do get something out of it. I have seen people that I've mentored that have moved around and regret that they hadn't stayed longer in certain roles and that sort of thing. So that would be my advice: is be patient with where you're at and learn what you can from the situations you're in.
For sure. Yeah, I know that it's definitely, especially with like the age of just social media and you can see actively what every single person,
Exactly.
your neighbors from 10 years ago, what they're doing right now.
Yes.
But, taking that time to really, I guess, be present in the opportunities you have and seeing, different ways that you can grow and excel. And especially, I guess, in a student perspective, taking those volunteer opportunities or those things that, sometimes we may take for granted sometimes, but seeing like what skills you can continue to develop in those opportunities, right?
Yeah. And also to get what you can out of school while you're in it too, right? Like, so from the professors you have and that sort of thing, there's going to be rare opportunities in your career that you have focused on learning, just learning. And so, yeah, try and keep that going.
Yeah. So my next question is, who inspires you?
That's again, if you asked me this question 2 years ago, it would have been different. But today, who inspires me is Mark Carney. And that was the first name that came to mind, and I wrote down that it's ethical, kind, and humble leadership, and that's what I respect about him, and that's what I'm seeing in him, and I think he's making a difference. And so that's my answer for there.
That's amazing. What do you feel has kind of been your secret to success?
Yeah, I'm glad you gave me that question ahead of time because I wanted to give a good answer. So, and it kind of will sum up what our discussion has been around. And I feel that I've been empathetic and a kind person who is a good listener. So those are the skill based or the traits that I think I had that helped me get to where I am.
Yeah, for sure. Honestly, those are super, I feel like sometimes they're overlooked, but it's so important to, have all of those to, be able to listen to other people's, perspectives and experiences while also obviously considering your own and continuing to be empathetic.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think that wraps up all of our
Yeah.
questions, but I want to just thank you again for, taking the time to
No,
do
I really enjoyed it.
it's
Thanks,
been so
Ryan.
much fun
Yes.
getting to know you and all that you've done.
Thank
And
you.
congratulations again. This is so exciting.
Great. Thank you. And thank you for taking the time out of your studies to talk with me today. I appreciate it.